You know how I am. Whatever I said, I was trying to think of what's that book called? It was called The Prayer of Jabez or something, wasn't it?
The Prayer of Jabez.
You
Enlarge my territory.
know?
Yeah, the Prayer of Jabez.
I was like, I get when I said it, it sounded so wrong, and I was like, that's not it. And I kept trying to like, am I saying it? Is my mouth not right? It's like I was struggling with that. And I was like, finally, like, okay, let me just sit that over there.
Right.
But
Oh.
I was really reminded of that when I was in Florida, because I know that how impactful what we see is. And I know that kids in our community have a tendency to they model their lives off of what they see. And sometimes there's this woman that comes into the 5 a.m. club from time to time, Dr. E. She got her PhD and everything. And she teaches, I think she teaches English at one of the colleges. Anyway, she tells the story about how as a kid, when her parents would drive down the street, she saw, you know, the prostitutes and the streetwalkers. And she was like, oh, they were beautiful. And she was like, I want to be one of those when I grow up, not knowing
Right.
what that profession was. She just knew that she wanted to be glamorous. And so sure enough, as she grew up, she kind of like aligned her life and became a prostitute. Um, and she said that one day, like prostitutes do, one of the hazards on the job is that you get arrested and you get beat up and stuff. And she said one day, she was about to go into court because she was in jail yet again. And the judge asked her what she was going to do with her life. And she said, well, she was thinking, she was looking around, and she said she saw this thing that said she could go to college. And she was like, I'm going to do that. And then she was like, she got one, like she got her first degree. And then she was like, well, now what? And she said, I just went here and got another degree. And she said she just kept getting degrees. And then it's like, after a while, it's like, after you get the PhD, now what?
Right.
So college has been her transformer, her saving grace. And but it just really talks about how what we see becomes, that's how we set our sights, by what we see that's present. And so in Florida, you're driving around and you see all these, boats and
Yes.
people hanging out on the boats and smoking cigars like this is their normal, and we can model ourselves off of our neighbor if we want to, but depending upon what you want, there's something bigger out there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so and that's one of the things that I like about being in a group with a bunch of women that are, thinking about the expanse of where they could be,
Yeah.
instead of just like what we do is we look in our company and we think, oh, I'm gonna be in that position, or I want to be the head of this department. It's like, well, there's bigger stuff out here too,
Mm-hmm. If there's more in you, which I think there's more in everybody, that
uh,
yeah, if
I, oh,
there's
I'm
a desire that's greater, then that's the message I got yesterday. Is just go for the go for the big that's calling
yeah.
calling you.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And so because far be it for me to try to I ain't trying to stomp on anybody's dreams. I just think that you ought to have one that's your own.
Mm-hmm.
you know so yesterday I had a good time yesterday. So after my drama with my dog, and then I did the at the end of the while I was doing my Sunday talk, at the end of it, my nephew comes walking in my house. I was like thinking, like, what the heck? It's like somebody just come walking in your house. And I'm thinking, did I leave the door unlocked? Whatever. And so when I go downstairs, my brother's sitting out up under my gazebo in my yard with all of my stuff that I've planted, and my yard is looking totally transformed from where it was. And so I've had company in my gazebo all weekend. As a matter of fact, my brother brought the TV out and was watching the game up under the gazebo, sitting up with their feet up. And I was like, how nice.
Yeah, we put ours up yesterday too.
Ooh, and how did it turn out? Are you loving it?
It's nice, but they got all kind of stuff in there. Yeah, my father has to do. He's got his music and the chairs and the cooler, and I think he's going to go buy a new cooler, something a little bit more fancy.
Uh-huh,
But yeah, it was. I didn't sit in there a lot yesterday. I was just helping, and we have these water weights that you use on the boat or when you fish.
uh-huh,
You put water in it, and it holds the gazebo and the corners in space. And
mhm.
so one of them were, I don't know how, but the water wouldn't stay in there. So that was a little of an ordeal, doing that. And anyway, it was just nice. And it's just nice to watch. I love to watch my father when he is excited about something to do. Because even though he just kind of take his time, he got that little suave little walk, but he just take his time and just makes life happen. And so it was nice to just watch him in because that's his little area, because he likes it hot, so he loves that, being out there. So it was nice to just watch him engage in something that makes him happy, as opposed to just sleeping a lot, because he's older now, and he sleeps a lot, to heal his body. So when he's outside, he's just out and about. I just love watching him and helping how I can. So
Oh, that's beautiful.
yeah,
That's beautiful.
yeah. So
Yeah, I used to tease my dad about stuff like that because I would say he's so a Mississippi man. He would get on with crutches. He would get on a darn tractor and just,
yeah, they don't.
you
They
know,
just gonna get it done. Get it done. He was spray painting something, and last year my father was spray painting I don't know what, but he has a lung disorder. But
mm-hmm,
he's spray painting it, and the fumes are almost near the house. I can smell it. And my dad is down, no mask on, no nothing.
mm,
Consequently, we ended up taking him hospitalized. That's my life story since I've been home. And so yesterday he was trying to fix something, and he was about to spray, and I said, "We got to put on a mask, or
yeah,
I'm going to take that can out of your hand."
right, right,
I've
right.
been a big bully this week with my father. So
Yeah,
he's like,
that's
okay, okay,
beautiful.
okay.
That's
Oh,
beautiful.
yeah. So the gazebo is up, and the music back there was bumping yesterday. So it just feels yummy.
Yay. I love it. I love it.
Mhm.
And it's nice to be, and here's the thing that I guess you know, for people, there is, I always tell people that there is a certain, in our culture, there is a currency for attached to this idea of busyness, of always trying to, make something happen and all of this stuff. And we got to learn how to just slow down and just be
No,
in the moment. Good morning, Desmond. Just learn how to slow down and be in the moment because, you know, um, June 7th, 2021,
one time.
Yep, you only get it once. Just this day will never ever happen again. So
Yes.
be present in it. And even if it's just a few minutes, just sit down and count your blessings. And if you don't think you have any, right?
Wow.
Just just sit down. Because remember I was telling you about the woman with the new booty. She couldn't even sit. She got a brand new booty and couldn't sit on it. So just
Oh
take
God.
a moment. Hey, good morning, Gretchen.
Good morning, Gretchen.
Yes, just
Mhm.
take a moment and sit down and just
Wow. Mm,
be human beings. That's why they call it human beings, not human doings.
girl.
So, yay. So we get to dive back into this juicy work and
Ugh.
um
This work that is coming alive right before
yes,
my eyes is just coming into fruition. If I was a painter, which I probably am, I could paint a picture
mhm.
of this experience.
I like seeing your shoulders out in that shirt. You look cute.
Yeah, this is a new adventure too, because typically I would have a sweater on, but
Yes, I know, but that looks good on you. You
thank
know, sometimes I think to myself, it would be nice to have Michelle Obama's shoulders, but I'll take the ones I got,
this is
you
it.
know?
This is it, right?
Yeah,
Right?
there was a guy one time who, a friend of mine, this guy I used to date, he was going to introduce somebody to a woman that that reminded, they was like, he said, well, if you like Sandra, I got somebody that you'll like, and go introduce her to somebody else. And when I looked at this woman, I was trying to think and see what it was that was similar, what he saw that was similar about us. And as I was looking at her frame, I was thinking to myself, like, okay, it's the frame. So it was just the way that her shoulders sat and the way, because it was a white woman, and I could see when I sat there and tried to study her why he would say that that there were some similarities in our look. But she was a bartender, and what it made me realize was is that guy used to sit at her darn bar counter a lot because he was attracted to her. And I was like, well, maybe I need something where I could get paid by the glass as you talk to me. I don't know.
You can put you a lemonade stand out there. I bet you get someone else to talk to you.
It's a good idea.
Spiked lemonade.
Yeah.
Oh
So, but yeah,
gosh.
I did study that woman for a while, because I was trying to understand what it
You think
was.
it was physical?
Huh?
You think it was a physical
I think it was a physical thing. I think
likeness?
it was a
Okay.
physical look. Yeah. Yeah, I think it was a physical look. That was what I got out of it.
Hmm.
And and what I realized too about myself is that I have a look of softness, which sometimes you can see people that look hard or some. I think like I think I look soft, and I think that was what I got out of that
Okay.
woman. I don't know. I don't know. Whatever. It is what it is. And that guy is married now to a wonderful woman. I've been over their house. I love the fact that she loves him, and that people move on. We grow up, we move on, and it's all good. All right.
Right.
Relationships, right? All right. So we are still in working on our second chakra, and we have been talking about some really juicy stuff around the ideas of um uh, you know fear and relationships and all of this stuff as it and so we've talked about the false gods that we create. We talk about our energy and our energy having its own what do you call it, an energy field,
Mhm.
and that sometimes we are the ones that abort the process. We went through all of this stuff as we talk about this, and so now we have gone into this honor one another. And as we keep moving through this, talking about communion and what that means, we are now in this section and for Gretchen, we are at the bottom of a page 140 of this particular work, Anatomy of the Spirit by Carolyn Miss. I don't
And
know
can
if I,
point out some stuff when you get
oh,
finished?
sure, go ahead. Let's see.
So, so like just remembering that chakra too is honoring one another, which is
Mhm.
good. And then my other highlight, I just keep wanting to remind myself of this, is that faith has the full power of heaven behind it.
Yes,
So
yeah,
when we are producing and understanding that, and the other thing that has continued to stand out for me is that my faith has an outcome and my fear has they produce outcomes.
yeah,
And so understanding that when we are engaging in connections and relationships that or giving birth to a creative idea, that it's just been so powerful. If I
yeah.
could put it in a little cage and make it some kind of stone, those would be my little stones that I would.
Right. And it says that faith in anything, be it positive or negative, produces results. Faith, even when you scary, something scary that you do, the doing it has exponential positive returns. But when you do stuff out of fear, that too can have exponential
Mitchell.
negative returns.
Right,
So
right.
um and so sometimes when we are at one of those crossroads where we're asking ourselves, should I, and you have reasons based on fear
Mhm.
why you should not, the ramifications of that has negative compounded stuff. And when you do it based on faith, not knowing the outcome, and sometimes even when you do stuff based on faith, it may not turn out the way that you think.
I know.
Ways are set up for something better.
Uh-huh. It's so true. But
Yeah.
and since learning, going through this process, when I meditate and I get those, like, the little flutter thoughts that come in, and they're thoughts of, well, what if, or am I right? I want to be in alignment, all that jargon. Um, I have now been able to sift through it with two lenses. Like, is this that is showing up? Is this a part of my faith experience? Or is what's showing up a part of my fear experience that's presenting itself in the midst of me trying to sit still? Because it's real, and I I just hope that everybody is doing this work because it's so good.
Yeah. And really bringing this into our day-to-day lives. So say for instance, for me, there are things that keep presenting themselves in the present that are calling me to exercise my faith. And so it is almost like I feel like I'm running and it's like, I'm at a decision point here. Let me, and sometimes I have been in a position where I'm putting things off, and I know that I'm putting them off or procrastinating because I am feeling fear. That does
Yes,
not mean that I am not going to do it. It just means that sometimes I don't sign those papers to say yes to an opportunity right away. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to sign.
yes,
It just means that I need to breathe in this because I'm recognizing that fear is
yes,
present here. Uncertainty. I'll say it like that. I don't, because sometimes when fear is such a strong word for for so many of us, but there's the uncertainty of it too.
Yeah.
So like, let me give you guys a for instance, because I mean, I try to keep this real and make this about my present life, right? So yeah, most of y'all know I do training and I go out and do training. And so um what I know is that I've been doing this for some years and I have not changed my rates in the, let's say, I've been doing this for 10 years and pretty much my rates are still the same. Even though when they introduce me, they'll say, oh, this is our most requested trainer that we have. As a matter of fact, people go back and take stuff that she's done over again, right? And yet I haven't changed my rates. And so there is a
opportunity.
Yeah, but I'm claiming that there is a part of me that feels really uneasy about the fact that now I need to go back and say to you, you know what, we need to renegotiate my contract. That's really, it's been hard for me. And that's why and I recognize that it's a process. And this is another thing, Stephanie, that I have done. I used to, y'all gonna find some of the stuff that I do kind of crazy, but I used to have a real problem with asking for money. I had a real problem with money. And so I was trying to get to a point where I worked on myself where it revolved around money. Because I meet people now who come to my house and I want them to do some work and I'll ask them to give me an estimate. How much is this going to cost? And they say, oh, pay me what you think it's worth. Nah, bruh, you better give me a price. And I can remember being uneasy like that about asking people for a price. So what I did, I went out and I started driving a taxi. This was years ago. I started driving a taxi cab because now I could say, when I turn around and people say, what do I owe you? I could say, it's right there, right? It's on the thing.
You wouldn't
That's
even
how
quote
much.
the amount.
So then I graduated to that and I started like actually saying how much it was. Then it was a process of being able to take the money from your hand. You know, then it was a process of people, you know, so it wasn't automatically asking, so do you need change? I was like, you know, how do you make the assumption that you can keep whatever's left over?
Yes, yes.
It was a graduation from one spot to the next spot to the next spot, because there is so much anxiety and fear and feelings of unworthiness and
Yes.
undeservedness about money within our culture.
Yes.
We have been denied payment for our services, legitimate, wonderful services, or somebody acting as if it is our responsibility, either because we're mothers or because we're supposed to serve, or because any number of things, right? Because of our race, whatever. People have had this angst around money.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we can, or when we own that fear, then we can start to deal with the fear, even if you're just moving into it on a, an inch by inch basis.
Incremental.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. But
So,
I think the power is in the acknowledgement.
oh yeah.
Just the acknowledgement. My experience is when I acknowledge, especially coming from being I say recovering perfectionist, when I acknowledge something that feels scary or that I question or I'm not real certain about, I start to notice how things just line up. A message, I'll hear a message or I'll get a notice or something will pop up somewhere that kind of pushes you to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. So yeah, acknowledging is like the very first thing, but I promise you that people acknowledging their own truth and fears is not like a walk in the park. Like people aren't doing that.
Right, right, right. And so that's why we're doing this, right?
Yes, yes.
So, and that's why I'm trying to be as transparent as possible with what I struggle with, so that people can understand not just the struggle itself, but what's behind the struggle, right? And I think that once we, so just like with shame can't exist for anybody, but shame or the thoughts around shame disappear the moment you give voice to it.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so that's why that's part of the healing for me, like to give voice to that. I had a woman, I used to have this other church out in Cleveland Heights years ago, and I had this woman, and she was talking about this very thing, and she said, this is the honest to God truth. She's so cute, right? She was a cute woman. But she said that she was married, and she had been married for a while, but she was unable to ask her husband for sex when she wanted sex. So, and I was thinking to myself, like, why you got to ask a man? Just touch him, shoot. That's what I was thinking, right? But she had a real fear around that. So she said that what she decided to do was she decided to tell her husband that there was a song that she was going to sing when she wanted sex.
Oh, wow.
And so, and that's what she would do when she wanted, she was calling it her, what is it called when animals do it? It's like,
her mating call?
Yeah, I guess it would be her mating song. And so she would just sing. And so it was so funny because after she said that in church, this one dude used to come into church singing the damn song all the time. He would just be,
get your own song.
break out in the song. I'd just be like, dude, like this.
Oh, wow.
But you know, so
whatever works. Kudos to her.
Right.
I still would want to be like, let's work around that. But hey, she figured it out and she was able to articulate that.
Yeah.
So that was big and good. Yeah. Wow.
Could you imagine though if her song was like something like "Take Me to the Water," and then his song he'd sing back something like "Yeah, not today." But I mean, that was always a possibility. But that was like, that was like one of her things that she just, that was her way of saying, I'm feeling amorous today.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And to say that is real for a lot of people, to be stuck in something that they find that somebody once told them was not a good thing for a woman. Like women, we submit, we are not, and somebody told her that we don't initiate.
Right. That
was the message that she received. And so when she got to the point where she was like thinking like, man, this is what I want. She had to find a way to give voice to that without getting the negativity attached to it that we were raised with. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's powerful. That's powerful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, so y'all don't be coming up to me saying, no, take me to the water, because that ain't the song.
You gotta figure out your mating call.
I don't need a mating call. I can ask for what I want. Or look, you busy?
Right?
Because no is not a thing that we necessarily associate with that conversation. Whatever though. All right, so
I love that example though. That was really good.
Yeah, I think that we've got to that some of this stuff is we just because we don't always understand, and men don't always understand the
Oh,
stuff that's been piled upon us, right? We've been taught that that's not what we're supposed to do.
right. It's not appropriate. It's that's got so many things around that. I
Even
know I've lived in that space
right, even
long time.
today though, let me say this, because even today, I can remember very clearly um being taught that we weren't supposed to be the aggressors. Like if you saw a guy that you were attracted to, I was taught that you're not the aggressor. You say what?
To sit like this.
Yeah, yeah.
I hope I'm right. I hope that he can see me. Am I invisible?
Yeah. So whether it's making the call first or making the contact, we've been taught that that's not what we do.
Right.
And so for the quiet guy who sits back waiting for like this, she's like this, you got two people like this that don't come together because you over there like, all kind of dissing.
Mhm.
So 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 if everybody just understands that we're operating with stuff that's going on in the background, and that sometimes what we're doing is we're overriding our programming
Mm.
because we don't want, sometimes it's like we not necessarily coming out overt with it, but just saying hi sometimes goes against what we've been trained or taught to do. So just so you know. All right, so energy and physical abortions that result from fear have emotional and often physical consequences.
Mhm.
Energy and physical abortions. Now, I love the word sometimes that she uses with this, because sometimes the just seeing the word impotent is a powerful. Potent and impotent are powerful words to use, but when we talk about abortion, that is like something that is in motion,
Mhm.
and then we stop it.
Separate.
Like,
Yep. Mhm.
yeah, that too has result, it says physical and energy abortions, right? And so what, like if you were thinking about an energy abortion, right? An energy abortion would be just what I was just talking about, knowing that I want to get paid, that I deserve to get paid. There is an energy and a value around what I do. There is that. And then the desire for me to step into that. And then what? Out of fear, I abort the process. There is a consequence to that.
Mhm.
Even as I drag my feet, I know that I'm in a holding pattern,
Mhm.
because that carries with it a momentum and an energy.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And so I'm standing in the way. I'm slowing the process, but I know that this is something that I have to do.
Yes.
Um, yeah, yeah. Women who have abortions because their husband rejects them, or the child, or because they are terrified that they will be unable to provide a home for the child, may have disorders of the reproductive system, like fibroids, for instance. So the fear in that is that I won't be good enough. I won't be able to provide a
I
good
am
enough.
not abundant. Mhm.
Yeah, it is all of these fears that we attach to it.
Mhm.
And as women, we have a whole different responsibility than, say, for instance, that male who is there also, in him saying to you that they're rejecting it.
Mm.
Yeah, that is all of that, right? All of that is bunched in there. In one instance, Norm Shelley, who was the doctor that she works with, called me in to consult on a patient who had severe vaginal bleeding with no known physical cause. As I evaluated her energy, I noted that she had 2 abortions, neither of which she wanted. I asked Norm, did she tell you about her 2 abortions? And Norm asked the patient about her feelings about her abortions, which she had not mentioned during the medical examination or evaluation. She broke down emotionally and poured the grief and the guilt that had burdened her for years. These traumas were causing her bleeding, right? And so remember, I just said that when you have a certain level of guilt or shame, giving voice to that confession has the ability to break up some of that.
It starts the process.
Yes. Yeah. Right. So I think that those types of things are extremely important, but also that
Hmm.
so so mothers who bring forth that life into the world, right? Miriam Williamson has this thing that she says quite often where she talks about in the animal kingdom how fierce and ferocious a mother can be in the animal kingdom when her cubs or her offspring are threatened, right? Bringing forth life into this world is no small task. As a matter of fact, we know that it is not, it's a life threatening. I, it, I can't even talk about how enormous it is because I'm not a mother, right? But what I recognize, Stephanie is, but what I recognize is that you put your life on the line, not only to give birth, but to sustain that, right?
Yes.
And for somebody to come along and say, well, you know what, I don't want no more children, right? When we don't take that as our responsibility to make a decision, not to be pressured into one, but since you are the conduit through which life comes, that decision, right? Because men will sit there and say, but I get a choice, and you got a choice when you put it in. That's when you have a choice. But all the rest of that stuff, that becomes, that you have just made a warrior. You have just helped create a warrior, and she will cut your ass down over her kids. And that's how it has to be. So to let somebody else make that decision for you, yes, you will go through I can't even talk about how big that is.
It happens all the time, though.
Oh my God.
And not only, but the sad reality of that is that not only is it the young man or the man or the husband that says, hey, you're not doing no kids right now, but you got parents and mothers encouraging terminating dreams is what I call it, or possibilities as well too. So that's like this, compound grief and normalizing it. So many dynamics. That is a that is a mountain, or yeah, can I say that, a mountain of just a bunch of stuff when that, and even when it's aborting energy, you giving up a dream and saying no to it. There's a level of grief, depression, and anxiety that comes with that too. Abort someone saying you can't do that, or you can't afford to do that, or why would you do, like, let that go.
Yeah.
How dare you think you could get off the plantation? What is that?
Right. And so I'm saying that yes, right, to all of that, but I'm saying be clear if that is this decision that you make, because I don't have anything against abortion per se, but
Mm-hmm.
it has to be your
Your
decision.
choice. Yes,
It,
it has
it
to be your choice.
if you do that, or if you abdicate that decision to somebody else, you will be walking around with this same thing that this woman she just talked about had, that guilt, that grief, that, yeah, you will have all of that. It's gotta be your choice.
Right. Right.
Right. And yeah, that's oh, I can't even, oh, that's big right there. Right. It's big. um yeah, I'll just leave it there at that. Right. I don't know, let's see what else she says about this. The women who I've met who have had an abortion by choice have not reported feeling traumatized by the experience. Okay. Rather, their feelings that the time was not right for them to become a mother or to have another child. And the fact that they know they had the right to make the decision played a significant role in their ability to live comfortably with their choice. Okay, amen. Yes. One woman told me that prior to having an abortion, she conducted a ceremony, sending a message to the spirit of the child that she was carrying. She communicated to the child that she could not provide a stable environment, that she felt convinced that the message was received because following the abortion, she had a dream in which she met the spirit who said to her, "All is well." And so, yes, that is so comfortable and comforting. So energy abortions, the aborting of an idea or a project occur with far greater frequency than physical abortions. And men and women both experience those. Um, and so she goes on and she talks about just as fetal abortions can cause an enormous physical and emotional scars, so too can energy abortions leave their imprint. So when you think about energy abortions in your life, I mean, think about the things that like, I hear people talk about, I gave up this for you, and I gave up that for you. And it's like, what? Right? And sometimes you got to ask yourself, like, did I ask you to give up that for me? And would I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know how other people feel about this, but when I came back from when I was in Italy, and I was, when I was there, I felt real pressure from my family to come home. It was time to come home. It's time to come home. I was, somebody told me, "Oh, your grandmother may not make it. And, you got to come home for this and you got to come home for that." And I came back here, but almost like a reluctant child. Like, I gotta go home.
Yep.
I often wonder what my life would have been had I just said no.
Yeah. Mhm.
I mean, and we talk about this idea of no regrets. If I had a regret, if I wanted to own a regret, that would be one of them.
Me
Then I
too.
actually came back.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep. That's interesting.
Yeah. who would I be? How would my life be different, you know? And when I was over there, I felt as if there were so many opportunities where I just learned about faith and the power that that faith had and the synchronicity of the things that happened to me. I mean, it was just like good. My path was just sprinkled with stardust.
Yes.
And then I gave in to I better come home.
Yeah. So like I in my imagination, and I'm sure it's well, maybe it's gonna be in my book, but I'm sure it's written somewhere. But I think that when you are away, you mentioned a couple of episodes about I get to be whoever I want to. Because in our family systems, since we are on the second chakra, which is really good, but in our family systems, honoring one another forces us to take roles, and we commit to those roles, and the people around us expect us to know the script. And so it's so yummy and awesome when I can go off script. That's the excitement, exhilaration. I can go off script. But when I come home, even if you don't want to, you can be resistant or rebellious teenager and go off script. But it's just this battle on the inside going off script. And then there's these expectations of us when we come back to our family of origins that are there inside of us when you're away, but you have the faith to know that it's going to be taken care of without me. So that
Mm,
it's that coming home and trying not to get back in the script, but there's that tug of war going on all the time of battling about people's opinions and who they think you are. And it's just so interesting.
yeah.
But the struggle, if I can say that, it is real,
Yeah.
because you do get to go off. I think the hero's journey is important. I never understood the importance of it until I left and was in Kansas, no kids, no husband, no nothing. And then, somebody gets sick, and here's the firstborn responsibility. You got to be here,
Yeah.
and so yeah, there is that shift, because you are actually discovering your you when you're not in your
Yeah.
family. Not that, because I love my family to death. I
Right.
wouldn't do life without them.
Right. And it's interesting because I often read stuff about James Baldwin and how James Baldwin escaped um, from this American society and the paradigm that he was under. And it allowed him to, because he was outside of it, to see it more clearly and to be able to speak about it, write about it, and share information on it. And so I see a lot of people who, even when they, if they become financially independent or have other successes in their life, they end up leaving and being able to put some distance, not just in between family and themselves, but this place, right? This paradigm that we exist in. And so I often think about what that looked like for me. And I will tell you, honest to God truth, right? When I came back to the United States, I remember coming back, um, and I remember when I landed in New York, and I looked around and I was thinking to myself, like, man, here,
Mm.
I'm just, there's nothing special about me. Because now all of a sudden I become ordinary. Over there, everybody would stop and look at me. And I felt like I was the woman in red when everybody else was in black and white. I felt like
Yeah.
there was a magic about my experience over there. and the fact that I had a command of language and all of that stuff, I come back and I'm ordinary. I come back to Cleveland, and what it felt like is, this is exactly how I described it for people. It feels like when you're walking on that conveyor belt in the airport. You know how fast you feel like you're going, because not only is the sidewalk moving, but you're moving. And so you feel like you're going full speed ahead. And then all of a sudden you come to regular ground, and it's like this abrupt, like, that was what it felt like coming back here.
That's exactly what it feels like.
Yes, it was like, and you feel like you're moving in slow motion.
Yes.
And I was like thinking to myself, dang, I want that feeling again. But then you get back and life starts happening, and now you're in slow motion in that frame, and that's what it's like.
Hmm. Yeah.
That's my truth. So when we talk about this notion of aborting our dream, right? Of aborting our stuff, whatever that may mean for us, there is, again, why are we doing it? Are we doing it based on fear? I don't think I can make it.
Yeah.
Because even with my, because truth be told, my parents didn't finance that trip. It was me getting, money from here and money from there and taking out loans and all of that stuff. They didn't finance that trip. They weren't supporting that trip, but I felt like I needed their support.
Mm.
And I felt like I needed their support and approval in order for it to work. And so as I felt like them saying, hey, come back, I felt like a pull was pulling me. And then when I get back, what the ironic thing was, is that everybody I ran into, they were like, oh, you're the sister that was living overseas. Oh, you're the sister that was, and there was a certain amount of pride, not only around my family, but also in my church and the circles that I went to. People were constantly talking about, oh, you're the one that was overseas. So there was some pride, but at the same time, come home. So that's my thing that I think about when we talk about ideas such as this.
Oh,
We all got.
we all have the stories, and yeah, I just did that in 2018, so mine is just super fresh right now. So
yeah, we all have something. So just as a fetal abortion can cause enormous emotional and physical scars, so too can energy abortions. They leave their imprint. And in both men and women, these abortions contribute to physical problems, among them infertility. Mm-hmm. So ask yourself, what is it that you have, and what is it that you do it out of? I mean, people don't get in relationships, people don't get pets, people don't change jobs, people don't move out of cities, people don't, they deny themselves all kinds of opportunities because of fear.
Yeah.
And that very fear can be what kills you, because you are, if the universe created you for a particular thing and has you moving in that direction, but you always doing this, stop, I can't, what does it need you for? I guess that would be so then all of a sudden this energy that you would have becomes now, now you're just trying to survive because you're operating at a deficit, right? You're operating at a deficit.
The Bible says hope deferred makes the heart sick.
Hope deferred makes the heart sick. Mm-hmm. That's big. That's big. And Erica says it's so true. Yes, yes, that's big. That's big. So, So it says here, many career women who are extremely involved in the birthing of their career have difficulty becoming pregnant.
Yes.
Some men in the same position also experience prostate problems and difficulty with sexual potency. Energy abortions. Can you imagine? If
Oh,
you
yeah, I could tell
yeah,
you a story. It's true. So
yeah.
the parent part, yeah, because when I was at my girlfriend and I talk about this a lot, when we decided to homeschool our kids, it was almost like we needed to homeschool our children because we were administrators and bosses and leaders, and we needed to do that. But we could not give our all to our kids and our all to our career. That's the message for us, because we had moms who did that, and whatever message that was for us, we didn't want our children to experience that. So we just went all in as homeschool moms and whatever, and just did it. But the thing that we talk about now is that we made those choices because we knew that if we chose our careers, somebody was going to be abandoned.
Mm.
And so even now, for me coming back home, I struggle with abandonment. My children are way grown.
Right.
There's this expectation that I'm supposed to have. I'm supposed to be. I'm not my grandma's grandma. I'm not that grandma.
Right.
I'm the grandma that'll pick you up. Let's go to the beach. Let's do something, and I'm taking you back home. Or
Uh-huh.
if we're gonna get a weekend, we're gonna go down to Florida, stay at the condo, do what we're gonna do, and I'm bringing you home. So I don't have, I'm not that grandma, but I had to come to peace with that,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
because I much rather be, out here speaking and helping and doing what I do. And there's a challenge sometimes. And so I can only speak because I'm a woman, that desire to want to have the best of both worlds, something goes missing. Somebody loses in our imagination. I don't know if it's true or not, because I didn't take that risk. I didn't take that risk wholeheartedly. So I chose motherhood and homeschooling and being an amazing administrator to my partner and helping to build a business of his desire, and for, his music career, and doing all the things, just being behind the scene, because it was easier than deciding to choose my career and my dreams, and move in it. Because when I got enthralled in running that women's ministry, I I wasn't washing dishes. I wasn't coming home. I could stay at my office like now, 12, 13, 14 hours a day, grab something to drink, a smoothie, and keep going.
Hmm.
And so there, for when I can't speak for all women, but I know the two, that myself and my friend, one of the things that kept us from moving full force in our careers of choices, because it was like, I get into this, y'all, you're not going to be a priority.
Hmm. Yeah, and isn't that interesting though? Because we don't everybody does not have that same struggle, right?
I know.
Especially not men. They don't have that same
No.
struggle of, do I go all in, or do I, or do I make other choices? I mean, and so good morning, Kimberly. So people go through that type of, that tug of war within themselves, trying to figure out the programming,
Mhm.
because it's the programming
It
that
is.
says that we've got to do it a particular way.
Mhm.
But let's put this in context of our culture too, though, because I don't want to miss that part, that piece too. So this is a struggle. This has been a struggle within the Black community,
Yes.
particularly because of so historically we got one narrative that goes on. Historically, it takes a village to raise a child.
Yes.
Then we move forward, and because slavery then disrupted that program, and slavery said, yeah, your child ain't your child. It belongs to massa, and massa decides what happens with your child, right? And so you've got a certain amount of detachment that happened.
That has to happen for survival.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so now that we have reclaimed or are reclaiming this feminine energy that is our truth,
Mm-hmm.
um, to then still have this struggle too
Mm-hmm.
around, you know, what does it mean to be, because we don't give up an identity when we become wives or when we become mothers. That's been a particular model that's been put upon us.
Right.
But look at how psychologically damaging that can be
It
when we
is.
think
Not me.
that, yeah, that it, okay, that it is, thank you. But that your only, who you are becomes about who you serve, as opposed to knowing that in and of yourself you came with something that you are supposed to give to the world. And
Yes.
so all of that meshed in there becomes this, a beautiful struggle, I'll say. It's this beautiful struggle to then figure out your truth, but figure it out you must.
You must, or you will be haunted.
Yes, yes, yes.
You must. You must. There, if you
Yes.
feeling that uneasiness and sickness is happening, and breast got lymph nodes in it, and the vaginal area is all crazy and bleeding. It's all of that is saying I'm not living in myself. And what does that mean? Who is the self that I need to live in?
Mhm.
Um, yes, yeah, I gotta live in the self. So the body keeps the score is like so true.
Yes, 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 yes. So, to round out this section, she tells another story about a guy who was, he was trying to start a business. He had a business plan. And he started trying to make it happen, to kind of breathe life into it. If you could imagine that you were breathing life into your business, and for whatever reason, all of a sudden, his partners didn't come through with the money that they had promised, and then he was left ass out, so to speak. It did not come into fruition, and this guy mourned a company or a business that never quite got off of the ground, and he mourned it like it was an aborted child, like he had had a child that didn't make it. And so sometimes we don't always recognize, in the moments that we are going through things, how significant it is, right? Um, yeah, we don't always recognize the significance of the moments that we are in until retrospectively, later on, we're talking about it. So like me talking about, I knew at the time that me coming home was significant for me, but I did not recognize that the tentacles of that,
Mhm.
how that would affect the rest of my life. And so we only notice it sometimes in retrospect, what that aborting a process has done, or the havoc that it's wreaked in our lives. And so so whatever that process might have been, and I don't know what it is, if it's happened for you, if it's happened for somebody else, but recognizing that too has an energy that we have to make peace with.
Yes. Stop it. Like I think we can stop the flow of whatever the outcome could be if we don't recognize it and cut it off and acknowledge it so that it does no more damage than what's already been done.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So sometimes, and I don't know, Stephanie, you're the therapist in this area. Sometimes it's helpful if you are still mourning something, or if you are, depending upon where you are in the process, sometimes it's helpful to have a ceremony of release.
Always. Yes, it is
Yeah.
very it's very helpful to do that, because in that comes this, it's like sitting Chavez. Is that the am I pronouncing it correctly? After the what the Jewish people do, they sit for 7 days to
Mm-hmm.
just do the work, whatever that work is, to honor that this didn't happen, or to honor that something was so deep inside of you that that you now give it permission to go and do whatever it's going to be called to do. I was the director of a crisis pregnancy center. So in that, we also ran an abortion recovery process. And in that process, there is a ceremony, like an entire ceremony for naming and then giving away and accepting and writing letters. The whole trauma recovery process goes into that. And the same thing I had to do when I can tell you the difference, because I did not do a mourning ceremony when my first divorce. My ex-husband was addicted to drugs, and so that was just traumatic anyway. So I didn't do that. But then this 20-year ordeal, when I was away and not around family, I had to do that process. I had to do the ceremony. I had to honor the fact that I threw away everything.
Mm-hmm.
I never did that before because I'm a picture hog. But for whatever reason, in my sitting there, I had to I didn't want anything. I have not one picture, like nothing. But that was how I needed to grieve and how I needed to process and and it was healing for me.
Mm.
It was very, very healing for me. And so I think that when we do take a loss, whatever it is, we do need to take that time and decide, I am going to say farewell to this. How does my heart need to do that?
Mm-hmm.
Because you know, long grief over and for years and years and years, it's just not good.
Right, right,
It's
right.
not good. And it calcifies the brain.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, so a ceremony is many times not just, and I know for some of y'all it'll seem hokey, right? It may seem like,
Oh my God, it's so cool though.
yeah, yeah. Sometimes it seems like it's hokey, but that release is necessary. And don't get caught up in the blame. I mean, we talked about that yesterday, or I think we talked about it yesterday. But sometimes we get caught up in blaming somebody for what happened,
Yeah.
right? Or what didn't happen. And if you get caught up in blaming or pointing the finger, it's this person's fault or it's that person's fault, or I was trying to do it. When you get caught up in that kind of energy, it doesn't allow you to own your piece in it. It always makes you a victim.
Yeah.
So
But it keeps it out here.
yeah.
And so it's like a distraction because it kind of keeps you out here while stuff is being destroyed inside.
Uh-huh.
Like this silent thing, and you normalize it, like you call it high blood pressure, or you call it, girl, I got really bad cramps, or I bleed like 10 days. You think that that's okay, but stuff is going on in the inside while you pushing or focusing yourself on the outside. And yeah, it's super, super important for us to own the impact of the experience is my responsibility.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Um, so true. So yes. So doing the ceremony is a powerful way of releasing it. And I would be remiss if I didn't, she finishes off that section by giving in two different examples. One of a man who found out after the fact that his wife had had an abortion without his knowing.
Mm-hmm.
and there was he felt the energy and the pain of her decision and carried that with him. um it was pretty profound, a loss of a life that never was, and that he knew nothing about or had, no participation in. So that left him feeling rejected and violated, I mean, to some extent. And can you imagine, because here's the thing, well, wait a minute, let me finish that. When he found out he carried the energy of that abortion, the anger, the guilt in his system, and as a result, he became impotent. His body refused to produce life again. The same can be true, and you guys, I recognize that there is trauma also attached when you have been caring for and believing a child was yours, only to find out later on down the line that it was not.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. It, especially if you don't have any others, and somebody, nowadays with DNA, it gets a little better, but sometimes they don't even find out until somebody files for child support.
Right.
That reminded me of that old blues song where that woman, where the guy was talking about, I don't know about that little bug-eyed kid over there, and she was like, but that's the only one that's actually yours.
Never heard that before. Like,
Yeah,
oops.
it's a blues song. But that is painful. That it can be heart-wrenching. Whether it is finding out that it was not yours, or have being suspicious that a child is not, all of those
All
carry
betrayal carries a terrible end.
woo, woo. And so sometimes in taking care of ourselves so that this doesn't metastasize into something, it means that we have to stop and actually address the issue. It's not something that you swallow and ignore, but rather you figure out a way of dealing with that. And I think that sometimes I think we are so flip in this society about stuff. We don't recognize that, that there are other victims in this, or that other people would be hurting or feeling the pain of our decision. So while I'm telling you the decision to abort is yours, that you have to make it, understand that there may be other people who are also affected by this. And so it's not just you and you alone. So if you have found yourself in a situation where somebody has found out that a child you said was theirs was not, or whatever kind of stuff, understand that that is a process, and it's big.
But it's time to heal it. If you're listening to this,
yes, listen,
it's healing time. It's like, you ready for the healing.
Right. So with that, tomorrow we move into this challenge of managing the sexual energy.
When I was reading that the other day, before this day, I said, oh, she's going to love this session.
Yeah, it's juicy. Juicy. So I'm expecting to see y'all back here. We'll start off at about, our normal time, like 7:20, and go to 8:30 and talk about this sexual energy.
Yep.
And I am all about the, trying to use our stuff and to tell the truth. So I'm so glad that you guys are going through this with us. All right, so we are
Yes.
done for the day.
Have an amazing Monday.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. I okay, be there, same time, same channel.
See you
Yeah.
later.
All right, so I will see y'all tomorrow. All
Yes,
right,
ma'am. See
blessings
you
to
tomorrow.
you.
Have a great day.
All right, you too. Okay, so y'all, I'm gone. I'm off of here, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. All right, see ya.